Hey, thanks so much for stopping by Walking the Text. I am ecstatic that you are considering going on one of the study trips that I lead to the Middle East. The purpose of this video is very simple, is I want to make sure that you have an understanding of what the trips are like from a physical perspective, because these trips are not for everyone. And I want to make sure that you have a sense of what you're getting into, because I have tried to communicate this in writing, and I have just found that on almost every single trip, I've got 1, 2, maybe 3 people that come on the trip who did not read carefully, did not think I was serious, did not know what they were getting themselves into, and it was a really, really challenging trip for them. Not only just physically for them, and there were a lot of things they had to miss, but also because they felt so bad because they were letting down the rest of the community. Now, the point of these trips is not to get from point A to point B as fast as we can. We move at the pace of the community, but I have these litmus tests now that I'm asking people to honestly tell me, can you do these things? Because it lets me know that they know what they're getting themselves into. But for whatever reason, some of these haven't worked. In fact, I had somebody recently say to me, I lied on the application form. I didn't think you were serious. I really wanted to go on this particular trip. I did not train, and I just signed up. And I've had other people who said, like, yeah, I read what you wrote, but I really didn't have a sense for how difficult this was going to be. So I just want to show you 10 or 11 photos or so that I've just pulled. Like, these weren't like photos that I searched long and hard for. Like, literally, I opened up my laptop, and within 15 minutes, I pulled these 10 or 11 photos and said, here, these are photos that from our trips that they can see, just to give them a sense of what they're getting themselves into. So these trips are amazing, but they aren't for everyone. So this is a photo from one of our early hikes on one of the trips. And this lets people know right away, oh my goodness, this I was not expecting. It's very rugged, it's very rigorous. It can be very hot depending upon the time of year we're there, or just even that particular day. One of the things I am recommending is people now use trekking poles. In fact, I've had trips where 2/3 of the group have had trekking poles, and these are not because you're out of shape or you're old. Anybody who does any kind of serious trekking uses trekking poles. And so this is something that I recommend people use. This is a totally different hike, and you go, it looks very similar to the other one. Yep, 70% of Israel is desert. So if you're going to go on the Israel trip, there's a lot of desert. There's a lot of hikes like this. And when you go to Turkey, Turkey is just as rugged. It's just more green, and it's just as challenging for the Turkey trip as well. And even in places where it is relatively what you call flat. In fact, I always tell people the flattest part is the bus. Like, that's the flattest thing in Israel and Turkey. Everything else is up, down, around. Occasionally you'll get a flat like this, but you are walking on, dirt trails and rocks, and it's also at times 110 degrees out. So it's not just a walk in the park. Other times you've got water nearby and you're like, this is fantastic. Yep, and the rocks are slippery. And so you've got to be able to navigate this. You've got to have good coordination and strength. And again, it can be really, really hot depending upon the time of year when you go to a place like this. Here's one place where there are quote-unquote steps. And the steps just keep on going. And we're probably 80% up the hill before we come to this little bridge area that then takes us up these steps. And so even when there are steps, it's kicking your tail in. In other cases, we're just hiking up a nice path, but it's like going up. And you can see even here, it says no passage. And we have permission to pass through these areas because the people on these trips are fit and able to do that, which helps us out at certain locations to be able to bypass the length of time it takes to get to the summit. Here's a really cool photo of a city, and you go, man, that is gorgeous. Yep, and you got to hike there to get that view. So you're going up, and you're navigating through brush, and you're navigating through boulders in order to get up. Just like on this particular hike, I'm actually just took the camera and just shot the picture going down. So I'm standing about 10 feet above the group, and they're still emerging out of here. They're winding all the way back into these trees coming up here. Here's a little bit more of an aggressive one, where you're using handles to be able to come up on these rocks, and the rest of the group is coming up, and this is just an up climb, and it is just It gets you. It gets you. Here's somebody on a recent trip. This was day 2. They did not have great hiking shoes. They said, but I've had these shoes for a while. They were really comfortable. They were really broken in. Yep, and that's what the rocks will do to your shoes in both Israel and Turkey. I mean, the rock is sharp. The terrain is devastating at times. And this was a reality that this person went through on day 2. So that's why I always recommend you get a new pair of shoes, you break them in. I give all those recommendations in the suggested packing list and whatnot. But friends, if you're considering to go on one of these trips, the whole point of this is not to scare you off, but it's to let you know that this isn't a walk in the park. This is not a bus tour. There are a lot of great bus tours. This isn't one of them. This is an in-depth study trip where we learn with our feet. We are up early. We are back late. We're working hard. I feel like I've got the trips paced really well after doing this for nearly a decade. But they're not for everyone. And so one of the things that you will see in the application is that I need you to honestly fill out the questions around, can you physically do these feats? That is in many ways like a baseline, like you have to baseline be able to do that. And even people who say, yes, I can do that, still struggle on the trips. Again, we're not trying to move really fast on the trips, but we're trying to move efficiently. And if everybody shows up ready to go, then it just makes everything so much easier. So if you're more than like 20 pounds overweight, I have found that the majority of people who are more than 20 pounds overweight really struggle on these trips. In fact, I just mentioned if you're more than 30 pounds, I need to know that because I need to take into consideration if this trip is good for you. Just on a recent trip, had somebody who was 40 pounds, maybe 50 pounds overweight, and they were like, I'm in really great shape. And day 2, they found out they were not in great shape. And so generally speaking, if you're more than 20 pounds overweight, you're going to struggle significantly. If you're older than 65, you're going to struggle most likely significantly. I've had people who are in their 70s who have said, I'm in great shape. And I would say probably 25% of them who really said, I am in amazing shape, were actually correct. And the other ones just really struggled and said, I did not know what I was getting myself into. So again, this is not to scare you off. This is just to let you know that these trips do require a lot physically. And when you physically get tired, the first thing that goes is your mind. And we need your mind to be there to engage the material, to engage the experience. But even more than that, I want it to be a great experience for you, and I want it to be a great experience for the group. I don't want you to have to miss a number of activities because you fibbed on the application, or you didn't really prepare, or you didn't take this seriously, or you didn't think it was really going to be all that difficult. These are very challenging, but if you're within the boundaries, if you work hard, and once we get there, we move at the pace of the community, and we do what we can with what we bring to the trip. So pray about it, discern it. If you have any questions, you can put that in the application, but just really get a sense if this is the kind of trip that you're able to handle, so that it'll be a great experience for you, it'll be a great experience for the rest of the group, and just overall, it will be a wonderful opportunity to engage the Bible in its original context in either Israel or Turkey. Thank you.